Sync from Breaking the Clutch. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Hope you guys can hear this squeaky chair as well. Gotta get a new chair eventually, but I'm skipping the first like 7 minutes of this gameplay. I can't see on screen how far along this game is, but I'm skipping it to the point where I actually get something moving because I was super slow to start with this. I was experimenting with picking up the back 3 mini bases on my side of the map, and as you could probably figure out, that cost 600 plus whatever I put on it, which I think was a supply pad. I put a war council, and I think put an air pad on there. Costs a bit of money, especially in the early game when funds aren't that plentiful. So I was definitely pushed back. I definitely held myself back. But the premise that I'm still rocking and rolling with is if I can get Vortis into the mid to late game, there is absolutely no problem, and he will absolutely dominate. And one thing I want to point out in this gameplay, and I'll point it out a little with more description a little bit later, is the fact that air is just not a viable option at this very moment, and you'll see why in just a little bit. But I want to point that out now, just so, I mean, the title has "Don't Go Air" in it, so I want to make sure that I'm not trying to clickbait you guys. Later in the video, you'll see exactly why I think that air is not viable. Right now, I'm going to walk you through some of the early game, or I guess this is, yeah, it's still early game. I consider mid-game, right around that 8 to 15-ish minute mark. So if I can get myself through that point, then I will definitely be able to, I think, dominate the game with Vortis and his abilities. You'll notice we're doing the same thing as always, still trying to get control of the power nodes, as many as we can. The one on his side of the map, I'm not necessarily trying to control because if I can, I will. If not, I'm not really going to stress about it. If I can have 4 power nodes to his 1, I'm fine with that. Even 3 power nodes to his 2, I'm good with that. And I guess even in a sense, 2 to 2 is fine. But if I want to get myself that advantage that Vortis needs to get himself into that mid to late game, like I've been stressing before, you really want to get that 3rd power node, and you want to make sure that you have the advantage over that, because teching is going to be the very crucial thing for Vortis, especially for the fact that I need those locusts out. I need those I need those hunters out as well, and some rangers as well. So I need to make sure that I get to tech 2 very quickly, and I purchased, like I said earlier, a few things on my side of the map that I don't think I necessarily should have purchased. I probably should have tried to take control of power nodes and then pulled back to my side and picked up a mini base or 2, or maybe I opened up with 1 mini base and then went back around when I had a better economy and picked up the 2nd mini base, or I just avoid all that and pick up a 2nd base early in the map. And one of the videos coming out later in the week, I'm going to go ahead and pick up that 2nd base almost immediately, so we'll see how that plays out in a future video. And I've got some comments about that as well. But you'll see we've got the hunters, we've got the NGs coming out, and these infused engineers, I can't stress enough how good they are and how often I'm going to try to utilize them in my gameplays and in my army compositions. You'll also notice that someone in the comments last time posted something about trying to utilize these mines instead of the one that takes away resources from your opponent. And then I also saw there was a patch on it, so I'm not I mean, this is post patch, so I don't have necessarily a comment on if I don't even know how good they were before this. But if you get infused tech 1 and 2, like I've stressed in the previous video, this mine becomes a decent play just for the fact that if it blows up, not necessarily that the explosion will cause damage, but the fact that it extends another part of that infusion pool is going to be the part that does damage, because like I suggested before, infusion tech 1 and infusion tech 2 are going to cause more damage there. And also when I've got a little bit later, if I can get those blisterbacks out, if I can get those scorch wraiths out as well, they spread the blisterback. I'm sorry, they spread the infusion pool as well, and that's really the key with Vortis, and that's what I'm trying to stress as often as I possibly can. That if you're going to use Vortis, you have to pick up units that are going to go ahead, pick up units and leader abilities that are going to extend and try to improve upon his abilities, such as Cataclysm, which is one of the last ones, which is going to cause a massive explosion on infusion pool areas. And then again, if I have infusion tech 1 and 2, then I'm already doing more damage. And if your opponent's going ground, specifically infantry, they don't stand a chance. They honestly don't with the use of the infusion pools. Like I suggested before, getting infusion tech 1 and 2 is absolutely crucial. As of now, I haven't seen anything in the comments suggesting that there needs to be a different ability utilized other than the trip mine, which I still don't know if it's if they were referring to the pre-patch or the fact that it extends that infusion pool. So I'll have to do a little research and see if there was any other YouTubers who did a little bit of an analysis on the mine itself. But typically, when it comes to mines and pretty much every leader, I've avoided using them just in general because there's just better abilities to pick. And mines, they're so easily spotted, it's just not necessarily one that I want to utilize, especially in the late game. But in the early to mid game, I'm cool with doing it because it extends, again, that infusion pool, which I've, again, stressed beyond belief. So you'll see right here, I don't want to commit too close into that. I mean, that's a bit of a tricky little corner with that base right there. If you walk too far into it, you're now pinched in between the base and the entrance or exit at that point, and the opponent can simply push in units right there. If they have turrets on that base as well, which in this case I don't believe he does, but if the opponent does have turrets, then you see you get pinched in like that, and I don't have a teleport ability with Vortis, so I got to make sure I don't pinch myself in that situation. I'd prefer to fight toward the center of the map, and if I have to, I can also jump on one of the sides of the bases right here, or sides of the little structure on the side, and I'll be able to get my locust to have a good shot on it. You'll see I do that with the left side of the base, which he'll eventually get in a second. But you'll see it's with this combo, with this set of units, it's absolutely crucial to get those engineers in play, and I think it's just a good army mix. And one thing I would stress is perhaps if you're gonna try to use what I've got going on right here, the one thing I would recommend is going 1 or 2 Reavers and then maxing into full pop. You'll see my opponent, he's going to go air, which, I mean, it should be expected, and I also should be scouting that. There's no point in a match when you're safe not to scout, especially during one of these transitions where you've knocked off your opponent's army. You have to figure out what they're doing next, and that's one of the downfalls of this gameplay, and I'd say a downfall of RTS players just in general. I mean, scouting is the most fundamentally crucial thing in an RTS game, and you know, you can get comfortable and you can feel that you're dominating a game, and then your opponent just switches it up on you. You get complacent. And of course, I stress the fact that just scouting is, although it's the easiest and most recognizable thing to do in an RTS game, it is also the most skipped thing. So again, just always scout. Don't be too confident like I was in this gameplay. Learn from my mistakes. Do better than I do. And you'll see I've got the locust right where I need him. But obviously, again, he's going to get that area in. And here's the part where I suggested maybe get 1 or 2 Reavers into the mix, and then by doing that, once units start dying, you'll be able to bring in other Reavers. But the fact is that you have 2 Reavers, they will already do a significant amount of damage to air units on their own, and it might be able to push your opponent back, which wouldn't be the case as you'll see right here. Your opponent's not going to push back necessarily if you don't have Reavers in that mix. Locusts don't do too much damage. Rangers obviously don't do that much damage, and hunters do no damage. So my army composition right here is not good for that, and I'm not able to scare off my opponent, which I think is crucial. If you have 1 or 2 Reavers, like I suggested, you can probably get your opponent to maybe at least not fall back, but not follow you back to your base or back to your safe area. And you'll see right here, I'm going to go ahead and use Cataclysm in just a second. And it does, I can't tell if it does a significant amount of damage on this base or if my locusts are doing a significant amount of damage as well. I think it's a combination of the two. You'll see that it just does a great amount of damage. At least I have to test it separately. If you guys are interested in me testing that separately, let me know. But at least from the tests that I've been running in-game, it looks to be a pretty powerful leader ability when utilized properly. And of course I've got locusts in the mix, so I'm just doing even more damage than necessary, really, because that base drops pretty quickly with those combination of things going. And you'll see my opponent, he's got several, I think he's got 6 or 7 air hornets at this point, and I've just got to make this move quicker into Reavers, and it's not too big of a deal because I was already established enough. I've already got 3 bases. I've got shield generators on them. All I have to do is back my units up into that. And this is what I was suggesting earlier. If you have Reavers in that mix, perhaps that opponent doesn't follow you all the way back to your base or to where you want to protect yourself, and maybe they back off much quicker. So again, these are all things to consider when dealing with someone who goes air. But once you have enough air units or anti-air units such as Reavers, I believe Wolverine's got the very same buff that Reavers did, but it's going to be nearly impossible for someone who masses air to defeat you. I can only imagine in maybe a 3s game where your opponents draw off the anti-air units, and you utilize your air units and send them off way across the map, while maybe the anti-air units are moving toward a different side of the map, and maybe like an air assault type thing, and then you quickly back off. But I mean, you definitely can't engage them army to army. They just don't stand a chance. It's not like the Banshees in Halo Wars 1, or it's definitely not like the Banshees in, I can't remember what season it was, season 2 or 3, where air units, or specifically Banshees, were pretty powerful. That's just not the case anymore. Reavers are definitely, and Wolverines, I would suggest, are very powerful. It kind of saddens me to see the fact that air isn't too viable at the moment, at least from what I'm seeing, but perhaps maybe a slight adjustment needs to be made there, or perhaps you guys like the idea that air is more of more strategic than normal. You can't really engage armies necessarily with it, and you have to really hit a base, back off, or hit an army that doesn't have anti-air and then back off before anything. But you really can engage them mano a mano with and you'll see right here he's got plenty of Hornets, and I don't think I'm going to lose necessarily anything. I think I lose 4 or 5 units total, but I mean this battle right here is pretty much over. And that's pretty much going to end the game, because he's going to go ahead and resign after this engagement, which I'd like to hear your guys' opinion on, should air be buffed, should air not be buffed, should the anti-air stuff be nerfed, I mean, or are you fine with everything that's going on, and you like the idea that the Hornets and the Banshees have to be utilized more strategically? I'm curious to hear your guys' opinion, but that's my opinion. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video today, and if you have any recommendations on future videos that you want me to create and send over to you guys, let me know. I think I'm going to try out Firefight at some point this week. I have not done that yet. Maybe I'll go for a few achievements, and I don't know, maybe I'll have some fun with it. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys have a fantastic night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.